Okay, good afternoon and good morning to some of you. As you may know me, my name is Siddharth Ghosh, and I try to run this tiny little organization called Open Academic Research. At the same time, I'm a German Research Foundation Fellow at the University of Cambridge. My main research is into physics in general, but complex systems from nanophysics to statistical mechanics, even at the large scale to some extent sociophysics is an interesting aspect of my research. So today it's an excuse that we have a National Science Day, but it's nothing to do with that. We generally consider every day is International Science Day, and we must continue doing what we are doing. And one of the things, it was very nice that Doordarshan was very kind and generous to host the first session for 1 hour. It was very nice. So I saw a very entertaining program for public, and some of you have joined, and I'm very, very thankful to Varsha, Samit, Sumantra, specifically Varsha and Sumantra, who were not on screen, but back end, you gave immense amount of support. So that was a huge success. As far as I heard, the program director was very happy, and the combination of the whole thing was very, very nice. That the sustainable curiosity to the ethics of science and the details of some of the modern science what we are doing now. So without further ado, the way we will do this program today is that we will start with the sustainable curiosity in a much more detailed discussion, which we could not do in the version because of language barrier or because of the program was primarily for the lay audience. So we can have a little more discussion in the deeper side of it. That's that. And then the first part is sustainable curiosity. Second part is natural conservation. And then the third part, I think we are very, very worried at the moment about scientific writing. So what we will not go into the part in this section today, but we will go into writing, and Professor Suresh will give a talk on that. So without further ado, I will just start the first session for, let's say, another 15 to 20 minutes, if we can discuss about sustainable curiosity, which is a very important point. And some of the questions came in the Doordarshan program, but we could not address them because of the time we had and things like that. So I would straight away take those questions and then keep it open to all. And everybody, please start adding your point that if you can address some of the points, you can. I'm just taking down, bringing up the questions. So the questions, this was a question Bhaskar Jana asked, and I believe that similar questions can be also asked here. So because we could not address those questions in the program. So main question was first question was, why is a scientific mind important? By the way, Bhaskar is also here. I can see him. So he asked these questions. So very, very, very important questions. So maybe we can just, whoever wants to start, maybe Moumita, you have wanted to say some of the things. I mean, my answer was very simple, that science is creative expression overall. And if we do not have the ability to do our express ourselves, we cannot be happy. And I think our mental well-being is one of the most important things why we do creative things, starting from art to science. And now, of course, in science, we have a huge aspect of ethics, that what we can do a lot of creative things, but possibly we need to think about when it goes out of hand before we start it. So we may not get a lot of time on that, but I mentioned in the program about Joseph Radball's Hippocratic Oath idea, what he proposed in Nobel Peace Prize. that what we should avoid as scientists. Although our mind might be very crazy, and we can be very, very imaginative, what we can do. We have a very strong moral responsibility on that side. So anyway, I would stop there. So please, Moumita, Samit, Professor Soni, Varsha, everyone, Sumantra also, everyone. And if this program is not live at the moment in YouTube, we can also edit it afterwards. Let's have a very open discussion here. Everyone, even including Sajid, Chinmay. So please go ahead and give your points. First question is, what is a scientific, why is a scientific mind important? Anybody can volunteer. Sure, Moumita, go ahead.
Okay. So to me, what is the importance of scientific mind? So we understand things logically because of scientific mind, and we can link between different things. So it's not necessary that we need to be a great scientist or we need to have a great background to do that. It can happen with anybody. Suppose, just think, if I give an example, suppose we are cooking in home and we are making rice. So we can have a particular kind of rice, and we can use different modes of cooking. Like maybe we can use microwave, we can use gas, or we can use maybe charcoal to make that rice. But are we really eating the same rice from all these processes? Do we have that question in mind? Because to my understanding and from my background, I understand that little bit change of temperature or change of processes can give rise to certain new particles in the processes. So the rice, what we are preparing from different sources, can have different nanoparticles. And are they helpful for us, or some amount of them? If we have some amount which is more than certain range, that can really give some kind of adverse effect to our health. So these kind of questions, and also which are actually very in the sense of layman, which this is a very obvious question. And also this kind of question are very much related to women and health, and women and child's health. Because these are the future of any country. And when we have this kind of understanding, and when we have this kind of curiosity in mind, that what is happening when I'm doing certain things, what is the implications of that, what I'm getting. So this kind of things comes from scientific mind, to my understanding. And why I'm doing something, when I'm doing something, why that, when this question comes, the curiosity, that is the basics of scientific mind to me. Yes, I'm done.
Thank you, Moumita. Maybe since the women in science part came up a little bit, Varsha, would you like to add a little bit, because you're also a woman, so maybe, and you're at the same time you do publish and do act very much like a scientist, as well as a public health expert. So from that aspect, I think if you can give some opinion. Yeah.
Yes. So let's look at from a very common, perspective, very common layman perspective. Every individual has lots of thoughts, lots of insights, great curiosity minds, creative thinking power, lots of questions in them. So when an individual starts thinking as to why each and every thing that's happening around us happens in the way it is happening, and why not the other way. Okay, I think that's the essence of basic, the way of catching that. And this can be caught at very young is what is my look into it. Catching them young, like children, because scientific mind has to be created when the child starts to develop and starts to think, which is just around the age of 4 years and above. Okay, the brain development is happening, and the kids can start to correlate things that's happening around them. So that curiosity that can be established in those children, okay, we should never look up at them as children anymore. I mean, they might have good thoughts which may come later in their life, but getting them accustomed to things that's happening around them and making them realize that that is science. Okay, that's not any basic thought, but that is science, and take it to another level from there. I think that plays a very important role. So getting the children to think, because it starts from there, because they are the adults of tomorrow. So getting the children to think in peculiar ways, exposing them to different things and creating, motivating, unlike going with the textbook syllabus, which is mostly followed in India. So, keeping the textbook syllabus aside and opening doors to many more aspects of science, if organizations like us can do, I think it's a great deal, getting to those small bits, small gaps where we could fill in the curiosity of children's mind. So yeah, so scientific mind is important, and I think it should start at a very young age, very basic, at the fun level where children would understand and they would want to reciprocate to us. So I think that's one way of creating scientific mind, and it's absolutely important. Yeah, that's from my end.
Fantastic. Sorry, there was.
I know. You were just caught, so yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Varsha,
anyways.
for this very important aspect. I think child development. Maybe Moumita, you can also add a little bit because the later part. I would go to somebody else now, because Moumita, the reason I mentioned you, because you do have some experience by following some of the teachers in the school. Mostly in the UK and European aspect, you look into it, that how children are catching up to even some of the interruptions we are facing. Irrespective of that, how we can do some of the things. So I will come to that, Moumita. It's the fourth question in my list. So please hold your thought on that. So then the next question was, is it required for only those who study or work in the science field, I think scientific field, or irrespective of all? Anybody would like to comment on that? Professor Soni, maybe you can also comment on. Is science required for? Yeah, you heard the question.
Yeah, I heard the question, but I will be talking about that. As a matter of fact, the point is you need a curiosity. It does not matter who you are, where you are. You have to have a curiosity about at least all of nature around you, on which life is based. At least all the essentials of quality of life: good air, organic water, organic food, everything like that, health. So what usually happens is that the question was that are others concerned about it? Well, everybody is concerned about it, and only when you actually look at how something works. For example, when I'm talking about the floodplain of a river, people know that there's water in the floodplain, but they don't know how much there is. They don't know how deep the floodplain is. They don't know how wide it stretches. They don't know what is the amount of water that it has. Does it have 10 times the amount of water that the river carries, and so on and so forth. Science can actually give you answers to amazing questions, and then it allows you to use only something which you might say is ecologically correct. Otherwise, what's happened is that, as you have noticed in the last 50 years or 60 years in particular, a lot of the planet has not only got injured but has been destroyed. So I'm just saying that these are just to give an example that from, as you said, from a child to anybody, if you become curious about what is happening, you begin to learn more and more, and with science you can actually make this look into possibilities. But I will be talking about some of this later on. So I think it applies across the board to everybody. And what is amazing is to learn from people who actually have direct experience with nature, rather than learn from a textbook. Somebody might have said, then you can do something new. But you have to enter into a new arena, which is something that you probably didn't do as you were growing up. But then you got interested in some issue, and then what happens is that it comes in a completely different context. And when you're doing this either for the people or the planet, then it becomes a very different kind of activity to what we are used to in terms of academia. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Soni. Maybe Sumantra for time being. Sumantra, you had some of these questions related to whether science is required for people not from the science, and you have worked extensively in the field. And maybe also if you can touch upon some of the aspects of the next point, which I was planning to do, is that for prodigies, some of the things you mentioned, because it is very hard for, I feel that even in normal curriculum, as well as within the non-scientific background, if a child prodigy is interested in harnessing some of the things, what are the things you think we should do on that line? So first part is whether science is required for non-experts or non-science, as the common question has been, and then the next part is connecting to the specifically the special child who holds a lot of who are smarter than normal children, possibly. If we can explain that way, the prodigy terminology. So Sumantra, maybe if you want to comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, if you look at a child, like they ask weird questions almost often, and then as a parents we ignore them. That is the general, because we do not know the answers. What my strategy would be when a child growing up, select a set of sensible parents, and then take note of the questions that they're asking. Always carry a notepad in your pocket, and whatever they're asking, just take a note of it. And questions, and more the child grows up inside the nature, and the questions are more overwhelming kind of issues. So that is one step we can do. If we can run such experiments, and then we can get a great collection of questions to be explored by any discipline. Science is only, one part, and then the social science and other disciplines, of course. So their questions can transgress any boundary of any kind of knowledge system that you can find. So that is one aspect. Prodigy, I'm curious about the prodigy child, because they are much advanced in terms of the thinking and in terms of the achievement. That sense of recognition they seek from the society, that is often absent, and then people are ridiculing them, kind of thing. Why are you so advanced, kind of? So that needs to, these are the outliers that we call economics. That you plot some points, and some of the points will be far away from trend line. So how to handle them? It's a big challenge in any society. Even if you look at Japanese society or Germany. So, and you try to feed them into the standard curriculum, and that's where the trouble happens, because that child is far more advanced and seeking to publish immediately when at the age of 10. You cannot think of even imagining. So I'll keep it open to this sort of discussion and notes, and I barely do not have any conclusion on it. Yeah, so I'm just wondering that how to do and what to do. One way could be that you start collecting questions that a child might have.
Yeah, I think Sumantra is very right. At a very particular right note, you have said some things, and maybe I think we could not address this question at the last moment. It got removed by the anchor in the Darshan because he thought that it's politically incorrect to ask the questions that what should be the curriculum. And the curriculum word was problematic possibly in the media, and I don't think it was. We're still fine, no problem to. I mean, we are discussing education, so we should be still able to discuss. But anyway, we can discuss here because it's at the moment closed platform, but also.
Yeah, Yeah, on curriculum, it's like in a strict sense another linear path of learning. And, in India, what I observe after I mean, I was school, that, and then I learned same thing again and again. In class 5, you learn a little bit of history, the same Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and etc., Akbar, etc. And again, when you go up, you read the same thing again and again. In a little bit greater details. So we are never sure that okay, the same set of history. If somebody is very curious at a young age, maybe he can learn the master's level history material for that if he is so keen. But when you teach them, you teach them and do not address them properly. Like I'll give you one example, like Rajasthan stone. Okay, so I thought one day in winter that I will explore where Raja Sultana stone is, and I started googling and then find 3 possible locations. One in Haryana, one is somewhere else, one could be in Delhi. And when you learn about Raja Sultana's death and their reign, kind of just one year reign or kind of thing, you will learn that Raja Sultana was made the Sultan of Delhi after Iltutmish, and he was suddenly killed, and that's where the history ends. And then if you study it, it's like to discover Raja Sultana's story and what was her reign and how she was killed and why she was killed. So, like earlier, the notion was that the king must be brought dead to the capital, and that's how, and then she has to be buried, so that people believe that the old king has gone and the new king has come. So these kind of detailed stories are never narrated unless it is a storybook, and the children's curiosity dies because they then starts history as to something to remember dates and something to remember the events and major events. If you look at who reigned from when to when and which war took place after what, and same kind of questions you are facing into your academia, in your competitive examinations and everywhere. And gradually it gives, and you take things for granted. You do not start questioning because you have learned that okay, this many BC and this many AD and this thing happened, and sequence of events, and you start mugging it up. The curiosity dies there. Yeah. So curriculum has a big role here. So if you keep curriculum in that sense, like strictly this has to be taught, then something is wrong.
Yeah, thank you, Sumantra. Maybe Samit and Moumita, you'd like to add. Maybe Moumita, you unmuted. Go ahead if you
Yes.
also add.
So in this case, I completely agree with Sumantra. The curriculum needs to be designed such a way that the children can get interested to learn. It should not be like a force on them. So what I have seen in some of the UK schools, what they do after the COVID, the students are very much stressed. And when they came back to school after the lockdown, the teachers gave them some components like the pasta, normal pasta, what they use every day in their life. And the pastas have different geometric shapes. And those students were told to design some vehicle which will have some particular velocity. And they were designed with this different kind of pastas. I mean, they were so much innovative. They designed different type of cars. I have seen them, and they tried to identify that what are the parameters which are affecting the movement of the car and how they can overcome that. So if they learn this kind of things from book, what they do mostly, they mug up the definition sometimes, and those heavy words in the definitions are sometimes very heavy for them, and they don't remember that afterwards. They don't understand the impact of that afterwards. But when they're doing this kind of interactive session, and when they're making some things by them, and they're seeing that what are the difficulties are happening in the process and how they can overcome that. So I think this kind of teaching helps them and is quite effective. Yeah, that's from my side.
Thank you, Moumita. Maybe Samit, you want to add some?
Well, I think a lot of the conversation has already covered most of the ideas. What I would say is the way we, I mean, curriculum is
You are a
typically been.
neuroscientist, so your version will be completely different, I believe. So,
well, I'm going to touch upon the social and growing up in India. One of the things that you realize that your curiosity is not important. You're getting the marks in exams is more important. And so there is a major cultural shift that is required, where parents need to stop thinking about sending the kids for the next 15 tuition courses that they need to do. I mean, Moumita has been talking about the UK system, and I sort of having seen my son go through UK, US, and actually US, Canada, and UK primarily, and seeing him grow, we followed a system where we basically let him decide what he wanted to do, and it's left him with a curiosity that is his, and he chose how he wanted to pursue it. I think I'm just using him as an example. I feel it has helped him grow into being independent in thought and in both his personal self and in his ability in science. And I think that's what is needed, because being recruiting students from India who come into the lab, you often find not all are thinking about becoming independent. Their independence of thought is something that they realize is a luxury, and they are often scared of using it. So looking at international students, one of the things that they often point out to me is, since I do a bit of tutoring on that end, and these are postgraduate students, I'm not talking undergraduate students, these are postgraduate students who could literally comment that you realize that this is the first time someone has told me that my thought is significant, that it matters. And that, I think, is the missing bit in the Indian context, especially where students are taught to follow and not necessarily to think. And this needs to start very early on, right from school days, allowing them to nurturing that curiosity, but at the same time letting them make mistakes. And that has to happen. And what is surprising for me is that it's gone I left 20 odd years, I mean, more than 20 odd years now, ago from India, and I'm seeing it gone worse in terms of the margin within which you get your senior university positions is tighter. Now it's 97, or maybe I'm mistaken, it may be 99 to 100% that you got to score within to get it. In my days, it was 97. And that's ludicrous, to be honest. Unless we can change that approach, we will never generate these curious minds and sort of perpetuate that. And without that, it all becomes very much the same. That's my fear.
Good.
Sorry, nothing scientific.
Sorry, I think there were some more questions, so we won't have time. And I think those questions came from public. I mean,
can I make one small suggestion?
Similar. Yes, Professor Soni, go ahead.
I was just, it's something that occurred to me while I was writing the book, that, one of the greatest laboratory actually is nature. And one beautiful example, for example, if you want to look at optics, is that when you look at birds of prey, or whether it's a vulture, whether it's an eagle, then they can swoop down from a kilometer and pick up something right from the ground, which requires incredible accuracy. And so, the thing is that people don't realize that much before cameras invented it, they actually have a telephoto lens. Then if you look at fish which skim the water, they have to have two lenses, one from vision inside the water, and one from outside, because they're moving both ways and picking up something to eat. So they have actually a bifocal lens. And then deep inside the ocean, for example, you have fish which actually it's dark and they need a huge aperture, so they have bulbous eyes. But what I'm saying is that no matter where you go and where you grow up, nature is a fantastic laboratory. And almost everything that we've had has come from there. And this is what children actually need to have an exposure to. I don't know how many of you, including myself, asked this question when we were looking at eagles, or when we were looking at fish, or when we were looking at anything. But they have completely different vision. and that's based on the environment in which they live, which is what is now used. Yeah, bifocals or spectacles, telephoto lens to get closer. And when you have low aperture, then you have a different kind of lens, right, for the dark ocean and things like that. So wherever you look, this is just an example of optics, but wherever you're going to look, you're going to find some amazing things in nature. The sad part is that nature laboratory, which is free for everybody, is not used by the urban people very much. And as a matter of fact, you think of classrooms and marks, as we say. But there's a fantastic laboratory, and one of the people who actually thought that was a fantastic laboratory was a very famous biologist from Cambridge called J.B.S. Haldane. He worked in Orissa, actually. As a matter of fact, he was very unhappy with what happened finally. But these are some of the things that one can use as a laboratory, and I think each of us, and including the people who are teaching them, should actually be aware of this. So we need not a curriculum, but we need to really understand something about nature. Whatever is around you, this is your laboratory. And that laboratory, actually, your curiosity can actually help you understand that laboratory, which perhaps even Nobel Prize winners can't. So I think there's an amazing kind of diversity and possibility to be creative in such situations, as long as children who are exposed to nature. That's what happens to them, and then later on in life it can come up, or it can come up right there. That's all I wanted to say just about this issue that you're talking about.
Thanks a lot, Professor Soni. I think I'm sorry. It's very ad hoc situation for me. As you all understand, I'm sharing a phone. It's first day arrival in India is always very bad. Somebody's phone started ringing. I think that was absolutely the point I mentioned during the Vidarshan program. And one of the schools and the thought process we are trying to develop is to get back the old idea of our old ambassador, which is Rabindranath Tagore, or Rabindranath Tagore, most of you call him, that learned from the nature. So I think it's a very nice end note. With that, possibly we have to stop here because the time is very limited. We are running 23 minutes late now.